distance away. Gotta get up. All right. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah. So we're going to begin our lecture tonight with 10 ways to develop Kushoo in your Salah, or be more conscious about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Salah. A lot of times we give khutbahs and then the Imam is usually tied up with other issues, so it's kind of difficult to go back and kind of dissect the khutbah line for line, and so much information is given out during the 30 to 45 minutes or sometimes an hour khutbah, and it's it would probably be better for the Imams, including myself, to kind of go back through the khutbah and retrace your steps and go through it line for line, combing through it so that people can actually grasp all of the jewels that are, kind of hidden in each and every minute that the khutbah is being given. So tonight, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be talking about 10 ways to develop Kushoo in the Salah. And for the past 2 khutbahs, we've been talking about Kushoo, which is usually translated as consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the prayer, learning to be more conscious of Allah in the prayer. All right. So let's start with the beginning. So I'm going to mention 7, and then I'm going to go actually more than 10 ways that we can maximize our prayer. Thank you, Sister Deanne Perez. My pleasure, and I pray that we can continue benefiting from one another. All right. So the first thing in talking about developing Kushoo, right? Kushoo is consciousness, God consciousness in your prayer. And we said that the Prophet ﷺ said that there are many people that will leave out of their prayer and they will have nothing written for them as a reward because they weren't conscious. They had no consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while they were in their prayer. Their minds was totally focused on something else. So we want to try to give you some steps. A lot of times we'll say, you need to do this more, but then, okay, well then how does that look in real time, right? How does that look in real time? Give me the practical steps on how that is done. You say to someone, fear Allah. Okay, well, show me, tell me how I should fear Allah. What things can I do that would, qualify, or that would be characterized as fearing Allah, right? We have to stop being so open-ended with the terms and the phrases, and it ends up becoming jargon in reality that we just tossing around to one another, and we just the expectation is that you should know what it means by now. You've been a Muslim for how long? And it's like, no, I'm the rule of thumb is that I am ignorant until you teach me. The rule of thumb is not that I'm knowledgeable, right, until you prove that I'm otherwise. The rule of thumb is that I am ignorant until you teach me. Don't assume that I know. Don't assume that I understand. Don't use these broad brush, phrases or terms that all Muslims should know this. And no, we shouldn't all know that. We come from different walks of life. Our, educational backgrounds are diverse. Our approach to life, our, world views and world understandings, our, educational paradigms are totally different. So don't just assume that I should know because I'm a Muslim. No, I'm ignorant until you teach me what it means. All right? We say all the time, stay away from the people of Bid'ah. Okay, who are the people of Bid'ah? Oh, they're the Shiites, they're the Sufis, they're this, basically everybody but you. Right? Stay away from everybody but you. Okay, so explain to me who Ahlul Bid'ah are. You understand what I'm saying? Don't just assume that because I'm a Muslim that I automatically know what you're talking about. All right? It makes what you're saying more effective when you take the time out to explain to a person. All right, so Let's start with the first step in developing Kushoo in the Salat, and that is the mentality that prepares us for the Salat. Prayer, right, just like anything else, right, where prayer is communication with God, communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just like you are about to go and have a conversation with anyone, you kind of usually get your thoughts together because you don't know how this conversation is going to go. All right, let's just use marriage for an example. Let's say there's something that you want to address your spouse about, right? You don't just jump into the conversation. You kind of prepare your thoughts ahead of time. You're at work. You're thinking about how can I approach my spouse about this particular subject or this conversation that I need to have with my spouse. So there's a preparation that goes into having a conversation with someone. If it's a best friend or person that, you consider dear, right? And you would even actually take the time out to explain to them that they wronged you. Sometimes people wrong you and you don't really care because that person is not important to you. So you just you shrug it off and you let it go. All right. You don't even address them because it's not important to you because that person doesn't mean anything to you. The people that you take time out of your life to explain things to are people who you care about. You understand? You care about them. So I'm going to take time out of my life to explain to you how you violated me in hopes that you would receive it well and not do that again. You understand? But if you don't care about a person, then you're just like, all right, well, the person's ignorant or the person's this, and you just chalk it up as a loss. But when the person matters to you, then you want to take time out to explain to them how they violated you. But there's a lot of preparation that goes into conversations. And likewise, as we're talking about prayer, there should be a lot of preparation that goes into our conversation with God. You're communicating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Lord of the world, the one who revealed this book that we follow, the one who sent this messenger whom we follow, the one who revealed this religion that we follow, that is our lifeline, right? And our connection to him. You would think that if we're going to go communicate with God, that there should be some preparation that is put into that. And the first step of developing Kushoo, it starts with the mentality that prepares us for Salah. There has to be a longing for the prayer. All right, it's not that, okay, prayer time is in, let me just go pray. There's no longing there to communicate with God, right? When you're a person that is attached to your prayer, right, when you take prayer very seriously as a Muslim, and I'm praying that all Muslims, we should take prayer, right? We're the only religion in the world that prays 5 times a day. There's no other religion on the face of the earth that mandates on its adherents to pray 5 times a day. So there's a special connection that we have with Salah, the institution of prayer. I'm not talking about the actual, physical, mechanical movements of the prayer. I'm talking about the prayer as an institution, from, the intention to the wudu, to prayer and congregation all the way up until, the taslim and making dhikr and all, until it's all done. That's the whole institution of the prayer. That we have a connection to this. We do this 5 times a day. So you would think that there's some preparation that we put into our communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there has to be a longing for the salah. This is not something that you just jump into. When you look at every ayah in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always says, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, and establish the prayer. إِقَامَةُ الصَّلَاةِ. إِقَامَةُ الصَّلَاةِ. Allah didn't say salli, which is the command form of prayer in Arabic. You tell somebody you want to command them to pray, you say salli, pray. Allah didn't tell us to pray. He said wa aqimus salah, establish the prayer, meaning that there's this institution that we call prayer, that it's establishing it is required of you than just to go into it and pray and then keep it moving. All right, there's more that is expected of you. All right, so there has to be a longing for the salah. Aisha radiallahu anha giving us a glimpse at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's relationship with the institution of salah. Aisha radiallahu anha لما سئلت ما كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصنع في بيته. Aisha radiallahu anha was asked, what did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do in his home? What did Prophet Muhammad used to do when he entered into his home? They were curious. Like, we know him on the outside of the home. We want a deeper glimpse into his life in the home. So they went to Aisha and they asked her, what does he do when he entered into the home? And Aisha's response, she said, Kana fi mihnati ahlihi, that he used to be in the service of his family. key, man. This is very key, because when we enter into our homes, we expect our families to be in the service to us, especially as men, right? I had a long day at work. Don't nobody talk to me. Where's my food? Where's my dinner? We want everybody to cater to us, right? Be in the service of us. But with the Prophet ﷺ, it was the total opposite. She was asked, what did the Prophet ﷺ used to do when he entered into his home? She said, Kana fi mihnati ahlihi. He used to be in the service of his family. From the moment he entered into his home, babe, what do you need? When is the last time we got up and made our wives, plate? She cooked the food. Least we can do is make her plate. And when she's finished with the plate, babe, you're done, and take the plate and put it in the sink. When's the last time we washed the dishes, right? We wash the dishes. Yeah, I'm touching some sore spots. That goes for me too. I have a dishwasher. And I have children. But Aisha said that the Prophet ﷺ used to be in the service of his family. And she went into detail to explain. She said, he used to sew his own clothes. If there was a rip in his clothes, he would sew his own clothes. He wouldn't ask her to do it. He would sew his own clothes. He would fetch his own water from the well. He would go down to the well, go get his own water and bring it back into the home. Milk, whatever animal, the goat, or whatever the case may be, get what he needed to get without necessarily asking his wife to do it for him. And that's actually part of our religion. Even the Sahaba, if one of them got on their camel and they dropped their, stick or their whip, they would not ask anybody to hand it to them. They would get down, and they had this thing with them that they refused to ask people for things. And that's part of our religion, to have integrity and to, be honorable about the way that you carry yourself, and not to burden somebody with something that you wouldn't want to be burdened with yourself, right? To have empathy, to empathize with other people, putting yourself in the shoes of other people. That's part of our religion. Empathizing with people is part of our religion. When the young boy came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked permission to commit fornication, right? He asked the Prophet ﷺ, he said, I can do everything that the religion says, but, I struggle with women. So give me a pass to, have my way with women. Let me just sleep around with women, something I struggle with. And the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't, say to him, oh, this is haram, how dare you ask me something like that. He wanted him to understand that there in human interaction, in our religion, there's something called empathy. You empathize with other people. And if you had a sense of empathy, you wouldn't ask a question like that. He said, do you have a mother? He said, Alaka do you have a mother? And the young man said, yes. He said, would you like someone to commit fornication with your mother? Would you like somebody to do that with your mother? And the young man said, no. He said, وَكَذَلِكَ النَّاسِ لَهُمْ أُمَّهَاتُهُمْ وَلَا يُحِبُّ ذَلِكَ لِأُمَّهَاتِهِمْ. He said, well then likewise, people have mothers and they don't want people to fornicate with their mothers. What is he trying to show him? Empathy. Empathize. The same thing that you are asking permission to do to somebody else's mother, you wouldn't want somebody to do it to your mother. So why would you ask permission to do that? But it was almost like a reverse psychology that the Prophet ﷺ was using with the young man, opposed to the, opposed to saying, this is haram, how dare you ask me something like that, right? So, with children, with young people, our approach to them can't always be this haram, you should know better, fear Allah. Sometimes you have to get in there and you have to tap into that commonsensical side of them. Common sense, it's there. Sometimes it's dormant. Did you know that especially with young men, I just recently found this out, with young men, their impulsivity, young men are very impulsive, right? The impulsivity of men does not stop until they're around 25. They kind of calm down and they start to learn how to rationalize and think things out and make sound choices, good judgment. That doesn't start with men. And because we have an arrested development here in America, right? We're still playing video games until we're about 40, right? So 25 is really like 35. So the impulsivity with a lot of men doesn't actually stop until they're around 25 on a normal. And for us, it's probably around 35. And that seems about right, even with myself. You seem like, we marry young men in situations and, they want to go into polygyny, they want to do this, they want to do that. And you're like, wait, slow down. What are you doing? It's just very impulsive. Their decision-making process is just very impulsive. And with men, that does not stop on a normal until they're about 25, man. So when you think about that, it's very important that when we approach our children about matters that are halal or haram and things like that, sometimes it's not that they don't understand that it's haram. They know it's haram. That's not their issue. The young man obviously knew it was haram, hence the fact he's asking the Prophet permission to do it. He knew it was haram. So telling him it's haram, why would you ask me something like that? It's self-defeating. It defeats the purpose. And you're not going to get the guy to respond the way you want him to, because you are using a tactic, you're using a method of conveying of information that does not resonate with them. So, the Prophet ﷺ was so intelligent, man, so smart when it came to human interaction. I think volumes of, human psychology could be written solely based upon how the Prophet ﷺ interacted with people. He understood people. He understood behavior, human behavior, like no one else. So he said to the guy, he said, do you have an aunt? He said, do you have a sister? Alaka ukht. And the young man said, yes. He said, well, would you like somebody to commit fornication with your sister? And the man said, no, of course not. He said, وَكَذَلِكَ النَّاسِ لَهُمْ أَخَوَاتِهِمْ وَلَا يُحِبُّ ذَلِكَ لِأَخَوَاتِهِمْ. He said, then likewise, people have sisters and they don't want people to fornicate with their sisters. And then he asked him, do you have an aunt? And he went down the line of all of the women in his family until the young man got what the Prophet ﷺ was trying to teach him, and that was to empathize. How could you ask permission to do something to someone else's mother that you would not accept for yourself? And when you have empathy, then when you are able to empathize with people, then you start to see them as human beings as opposed to exploiting them for your own agenda, using them to get to the next, step or the next phase in your pursuit, in your pursuit of happiness, using other people to achieve that. And I think a lot of times, even in the Muslim community, we do that. There's exploitation that goes on in relationships, in friendships, and throughout the Islamic community. Without a doubt, we exploit one another for our own pursuits, our own selfish pursuits. And it is indicative of the fact that we lack empathy, because you wouldn't want somebody to do that to you. So nonetheless, Aisha radiallahu anha, she said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam kana fi mihnati ahlihi, he used to be in the service of his family. فَإِذَا سَمِعَ الْأَذَانِ كَأَنَّهُ لَا يَعْرِفُنَا. She said, but when he heard the adhan, it was as if we were complete strangers. He didn't even know who we were. If Aisha said that when the Prophet ﷺ heard the adhan, it was as if he didn't even know who we were, then that means that there was a longing for the prayer. He was waiting for the prayer. Now, I'm in the service of my family, but I'm waiting for that moment when I hear Bilal calling the adhan, and I'm going. And it's instinctively, I don't even know who you are anymore. A lot of times the adhan is going off and, we find everything in the world to do instead of grabbing our keys, our jacket, and heading out the door on the way to the masjid. We think of everything. Oh, I got to do this. Oh, honey, can you take the garbage out? Oh, your wife always got a million and one things for you to do before you are on your way out the door to the masjid. Oh, can you grab the garbage on your way? No, I'll do that when I get back. Can that wait until I get back? Nothing is more important for me at this moment except getting to the masjid and praying. So there was a longing there. There was a desire to separate yourself from this world and go into another realm where you are in communication with God. So that means that no one or nothing was more important to him at that moment than the prayer. And it's important for us to understand that. The Prophet ﷺ gave us another example. He said, لو يعلم الناس ما في النداء والصف الأول ثم لم يجدوا إلا أن يستهموا عليه لاستهموا. The Prophet ﷺ said, if people knew the reward for calling the adhan and for praying in the front rank, if people knew the reward for this, and they could not do this except by drawing lots, then they would draw lots to do it. Meaning, take a lottery ticket to make that happen. to call the adhan or to enter into the front rank. So there's, the desire is for the reward. For the reward. You trying to get to the masjid, trying to get to the front rank. There's a longing for the salat, not just because of your connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this salat is the medium, the vehicle through which you are going to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also the reward. So number 2, from the ways in developing Kushoo is to leave out of the home in a state of wudu. To leave out of the home in a state of purification. So you are already prepared mentally and you're prepared physically. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. The 5 P's of success. It works even in Islam. A lot of times people will leave out of their house as they are, and when they get to the masjid, they realize, I have to make wudu. And the iqamah is being called, you rush in, you got to wait. If it's in 1 bathroom, 2 bathrooms, you got to wait until somebody's done. You don't miss 1 rak'ah, 2 rak'ahs is gone. You hurry up, you make wudu, rushing. All right, you even get a chance to dry off and roll your sleeve back down and, get comfortable so that when you get into prayer, you're comfortable. So now you're in the salat, your sleeves are soaking wet, right? You didn't have a chance to dry off, so you're dripping everywhere. You got leftover water residue in your nose, so you're constantly sniffing throughout the salat. You don't have any tissue to dry yourself off, anything. And all of this contributes to our fidgeting and our not being focused in the salah. Wallahi, I kid you not. When it's different when you leave out of the house already in wudu. That means that your niyyah, your intention has already been made because you made wudu at the home. So you could only be leaving out of the house for one reason, and that is to go pray. You enter into the masjid, and the adhan was called, you go straight to the musalla, pray your 2 rak'ah sunnah. You don't have to stop at the bathroom. You don't have to make wudu. You don't have to busy yourself with any of that. You're already in wudu. Your mind is already settled. I'm in wudu. You enter into the masjid, you pray your 2 rak'ah sunnah, might even have enough time to sit down and read some ayats from the Quran until the iqamah is called. Think about a person who that is his daily routine versus a person who leaves out of the home, doesn't remember whether or not they're in wudu, enters into the rank, realizes, I didn't make wudu when I left the house, got to leave the rank, go back, make wudu again. Your whole salat is have been infringed upon. How can you expect a person to have consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when this is the way that that you are approaching your prayer? We should always leave out of the home in a state of purification, so that the first is being mentally prepared. Your heart is already attached to the salat. You're waiting for the prayer to be called. And the second is a physical preparation, is that you're already in wudu. Not only that, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا تَوَضَّأَ أحدكم فأحسن وضوءه ثم خرج عامدا إلى مسجد فلا يشبكن بين أصابعه فإنه في الصلاة. رواه أحمد. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever makes wudu from his home and then leaves out of the home in wudu, عامدا خرج عامدا إلى المسجد, leaving out of his home in wudu with no other reason other than to go to the masjid and pray. He said, and then he enters into the masjid and he does not, لا يشبكن بين أصابعه. He does not sit in the masjid like this. Sitting in the masjid like this, this is something in Islam that we are been prohibited from doing. All right, because this is an indication that there's a level of boredom there. You're just sitting there idly doing nothing. Collapsing your hands together like this, sitting there waiting, is an indication that there's some boredom there and you're just sitting there waiting. No, we should be making dhikr. We should be, making dua. The Prophet ﷺ said the dua that is made between the adhan and the iqamah is always answered. I mean, how could you pass that up? Obviously cell phones didn't exist during that time, but I'm sure if cell phones did exist, the Prophet ﷺ would have prohibited us from even entering the masjid with a cell phone. That is one of the greatest distractions of our time as it relates to being in the masjid, being prepared for salah. How in the world you on Facebook, on Twitter, scrolling, why are you sitting in the masjid? And then the iqamah is called, and then you turn your phone off, and then you enter into the prayer. Your mind is still focused on the last thing that you saw. Imagery means everything. We function on imagery. The things that you just saw before you entered into the prayer is going to affect your prayer. As a matter of fact, shaitan may even begin to draw that image in your mind while you're in the salah. And for Allah, if it was a woman that you saw, the last image you saw was a woman or a picture of a woman, before you entered into the salah, shaitan has now found his target and he's going to play with that. So he said, whoever does this, فَإِنَّهُ فِي الصَّلَاةِ, is as if he is in the prayer. So while you're sitting in the masjid, while you are in the state of wudu, is as if you are already in the prayer, even though prayer has not begun yet. Why? Because there's the mentality, the mental state. You have already been mentally and physically prepared. He said, whoever makes wudu from his home and then leaves out of his home in the state of wudu, right? Amidin ila masjid, having no other, leaving out for no other reason except to go to the masjid. That's a mental and physical preparation. He said it's as if he is in the prayer, even though the prayer has not begun yet. So mental and physical preparation is almost like the person has already begun the prayer, even though the prayer has not already started yet. Number 3, to gain the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from your sworn enemy, shaitan, to prevent you from getting distracted. All right, we should seek refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gain the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before we actually enter into the masjid, or while we're on our way to the masjid. There's so many distractions that could happen as a result of us leaving our home and on our way to the masjid, even if the masjid is 10 minutes away. There's so many distractions that could happen as a result of you on your way to the masjid. So we should seek the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as we exit the home. As the Prophet ﷺ said, as the hadith was mentioned in the Sunan of Abu Dawood, and was graded authentic by Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala on the authority of Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا خَرَجَ الرَّجُلْ مِنْ بَيْتِهِ, that if a man leaves out of his home, فَقَالَ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ عَلَى اللَّهِ وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. He leaves out of his home, and upon exiting his home he says, this is the dua, Bismillah, in the name of Allah, Tawakkaltu, I put my trust in him. Put my trust in Allah. Tawakkaltu ala Allahi, wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. And there's no power or might or strength except with Allah. Think about these words as you're leaving your home. You say, Bismillah, in the name of Allah. Tawakkaltu ala Allahi, I put my trust in Allah. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. And there's no power or might or strength except with Allah. The wording of the hadith, the wording of the dua itself is so powerful. In that, number one, you're beginning your exit of your home in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that is good in our religion, you find the Prophet ﷺ always beginning in the name of Allah. Bismillah, in the name of Allah. We are leaving out of our homes in the name of God, seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's protection. And there's no protection other than the protection of God. And as Muslims, we know that better than anyone. Anytime you step out of your home, when you are in your home, you have 4 walls. No matter how big your house is, it still consists of 4 walls, right? That is the only protection between you and the outside world. Oftentimes I walk into my house and I lock my door and I look at my door and I said, the only thing standing in between me and this crazy world that we live in is this door right here. That's the only thing that stands in between me and this crazy world that we live in, is this door right here and this lock. That's it. And we realize how weak and powerless we are. Because that door doesn't mean, I'm always amazed, like you go to like project apartments, or you go to visit family members that live in the projects or live in apartment buildings, and they have these little chains on the door. You're like, what in the world is that? If somebody just kicked the door hard enough, that chain is not going to stop anything. Why do you have the chain on your door to begin with? I'm always been very perceptive, so I'm always wondered about this chain. Like, what is this chain going to stop? You got this heavy, huge door, and then you got this little chain that goes from the door to the other side where the door closes. And it's just like, if somebody kicked the door hard enough, the chain is not going to stop anything. But, we realize that the only thing standing in between us and the world that we live in is this door. And we are really, in reality, powerless, man. We are powerless because anyone can kick in that door at any time. You think about, for example, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon them. You think about the 3 Muslims who were murdered a couple of years ago in North Carolina, right? By their neighbor, angry white guy who hated Muslims. And he went into the home of these 3. They were college students, physicians. 2 of them were doctors, right? And subhanAllah, he murdered all 3 of them. And I mean, this was their neighbor. It's really that simple. Your next door neighbor could dislike you because of your faith or, your adherence to, whatever faith it is, and decide, I'm going to take your life. This is the guy that lives right across the hall from you, right next door to you. We are really powerless when you think about it. And as Muslims, when we make dua, most of our supplications are show our weakness and show our, being powerless, and that our need, for a connection to a higher power. Most of the supplications that we have in Islam, they always begin showing our weakness. Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa ant khalaqtani wa ana abduk wa ana ala ahdika wa wa'dika mastata'at. Oh Allah, Allahumma anta rabbi, oh Allah, you are my Lord. La ilaha illa ant, there's nothing worthy of worship except you. Khalaqtani wa ana abduk, you created me and I am your slave. I am your slave. Wa ana ala ahdika wa wa'dika mastata'at, and I am trying to carry out, my contract with you and the things that I promised you, meaning your shahada, to the best of my ability. That is indicative, right, of a weakness that we have. Most of our supplications, when you look at the supplications of the prophets and messengers in the Quran, most of them are indicative of these strong men that we, emulate and we imitate and we revere to such a degree. It shows their weakness before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're recognizing that there was a power greater than themselves that they were in need of. So you leaving out the home, Bismillah, in the name of Allah. Tawakkaltu, I put my trust in Allah. Tawakkaltu ala Allahi, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, and there's no power or might except with Allah. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever leaves out of his house and he utters these words, then فَيُقَالُ لَهُ, it will be said to him, Hasbuka, sufficient for you in what you have said, قَدْ هُدِيتَ, you have been guided, وَكُفِيتَ, and sufficed, وَوُقِيتَ, and you have been protected. Meaning you've earned the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَيَتَنَحَّى الشَّيْطَانِ, and shaitan backs away from him. فَيُقَالُ لَهُ الشَّيْطَانِ الْآخَرِ كَيْفَ لَكَ بِرَجْلٍ قَدْ هُدِيَ وَكُفِيَ وَوُقِيَ. And the shaitan says to another shaitan, these are the jinn, the devils, that are waiting right outside your door. As soon as you step out of your door, devils are actually waiting there. Devils, without a doubt, devils. Some devils are actually waiting in the car, coming to our house to pick us up, picking our children up. You look out the window, your son says or your daughter says they're leaving, they're going with their friends. You look out the window and you know there's a car full of devils waiting there to pick your child up. Your child is in the car with a bunch of devils in human flesh, without a doubt. Min al-jinnati wan-nas. Jinn take human form just as they take a spiritual form. Absolutely. So there's devils walking amongst us in human form. And so when the person leaves out of his home and he utters this dua when he leaves out of the home, then Allah tells the angels to say to the person, Hasbuka, what you have said is sufficient, you have been guided, you have been protected, and you have been sufficed. Meaning everything that you need from the time you step out of your home until the time you return is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're totally putting your trust and everything that you need from the moment you walk out of your home in the hands of God, in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no other religion in the world that puts that much emphasis on. Like, I mean, what other religion in the world can you go and find as a supplication for God's protection from the moment you step outside of your home, from the moment you enter into your home? I mean, like, all of these supplications, and this is why, the person who put all of these supplications in a book called The Fortress of the Muslim, Husnul Muslim, the fortress of the Muslim. Because these supplications from day and night, from the moment you open your eyes to the moment you close them, and everything in between, that is your protection. That small little book that is sold in the Islamic bookstore for $1.99, which we walk past this book looking at it as insignificant. We go by the huge Dar Salam 10-volume Sahih al-Bukhari, which we never read. And we put Sahih al-Bukhari on our bookshelf and we say, mashallah, I have Sahih al-Bukhari. But you walk right past the small little pocket book for $1.99 that will save your soul. That will save your soul. Hence the name of the book, Husnul Muslim. The fortress of the Muslim. This is your protection, your asylum, your refuge is in these supplications, in this book that is sold in the Islamic bookstore for $1.99. And we walk right past it to go get the book, the big 10-volume book. Mashallah, just went to the bookstore and bought Sahih al-Bukhari. Don't buy Sahih al-Bukhari yet. Buy Husnul Muslim for $1.99. You can keep it in your pocket. And don't buy anything else until you've memorized every dua in that book. Every dua in that book. Every Muslim. These are small supplications that is for, for our protection, for the protection of our soul. And so the shaitan, yatanaha anhu shaitan begins to back away from him. And one devil says to the other, what can you do with a man who has been guided, sufficed, and protected? Nothing. So this is your protection as you're leaving out of the home. And you are conscious of these things as you are making preparation to leave your home and go make salah. All of these things are going through your mind as you're leaving out of the home. So you are longing for the prayer. You're waiting for the adhan. Your soul is telling you that there's been a long time between Maghrib and Isha. I need to pray. When you are connected to your prayer, you don't have to wait for the adhan. Your body will automatically tell you it's time to pray. I kid you not. And those of you who have a connection to your prayer, you know. You're at work, you pray Dhuhr, you're at work, and you know there's been a long time between Dhuhr and Asr. And your body is telling you, I have not prayed in a few hours. It must be time for Asr. You look down at your watch, and it's time for Asr. No adhan clock, no nothing went off. No one reminded you. Your soul was telling you it's time to pray. You have conditioned your body to now be aware of the prayer times without the use of a clock, without the use of anything else. You leave out of the home already in a state of wudu. You leave out of the home in a state of wudu. You're mentally prepared, physically prepared, and then you're now seeking the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for anything stopping you on your journey to make this prayer. As we know, even when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam the task of slaughtering his son, and when he went to go do it, Shaitan came to him and tried to stop him. And this is Shaitan's blueprint. Every time you are on your journey to do something righteous, you will always find a devil in your path. Make no mistake about that. I don't care what it is, whether you are intending on getting married, right? You ever found someone, that's someone, you ready to get married, and then out of nowhere you get an inbox from somebody that, you haven't spoken to in a while, talking about, they've been thinking about you, and it's like, where in the world were you 3 months ago before I met the person? That's Shaitan. That is the devil, always on the path, waiting to catch you as you are on your way to do something righteous. Look at that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Ibrahim to slaughter his son. When Ibrahim was taking Ismail to the place where he was going to slaughter him, Shaitan came to him 3 times. Don't do this. You're going to really slaughter your son? Think about, this doesn't make any sense. Tried to stop him 3 times. And those 3 times that Shaitan tried to stop him, we throw stones at these three places today when we make Hajj, and those are called the Jamarat. That's why we stone the Jamarat. Al-Kubra, wal-Wusta, wal-Sughra. The big, the middle, and the small one. We stone the Jamarat 7 times, throwing pebbles, shouting Allahu Akbar. For that reason. Because that represents those 3 pillars. Well, they're no longer pillars. They look like something totally different now. Anyway, but those 3 pillars represented Shaitan's constant attempt to distract you from doing the right thing. Always. Anytime you're trying to do the right thing. And sometimes the Shaitan can work through your own spouse. You're trying to do the right thing. You're telling your spouse, no, I don't want to do this, or we need to stop doing this, or we need to start doing more of this. And then the Shaitan will use your spouse at that very moment to tell you, no, let's keep doing what we were doing. You're like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. Let's not do this anymore. Let's do this. And then, you have to be conscious of that. Number 4, to walk with tranquility and know that with every step that you are taking towards the masjid, something amazing is happening. The Prophet ﷺ said, أَلَا أَدُلُّكُمْ عَلَى مَا يَمْحُ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَطَايَا وَيَرْفَعْ بِهِ الدَّرَجَاتِ قالوا بلى يا رسول الله قال إسباغ الوضوء على المكاره وكثرة الخطى إلى المساجد والانتظار الصلاة بعد الصلاة فذلكم الرباط. Here again, a fortress. The Prophet ﷺ said to the Sahaba, can I not direct you to an action that if you do it, and notice how the Prophet ﷺ, very strategic. Another way that he interacted with his companions. When you want to get somebody to do something, human beings, especially men, we are competitive by nature. We love a challenge, for the most part. So when you notice when the Prophet ﷺ, anytime he was talking to his companions, he always phrased his comment when he wanted them to do something in a way that would challenge them. He said, can I not direct you guys to an action that if you do it, then this will happen and that will happen and that will happen? Who would reject that? Who would reject that? So you can use the same with your children. You say, what if I told you that if you did this and this, that this would happen? I didn't know that. Really? Okay, yes. They're going to desire it more, opposed to you saying, do this. You understand what I'm saying? He could have simply said, when you leave out of the masjid, do X, Y, and Z. And they would have done it, but it wouldn't have had the same impact on them if he phrased it in a way where they made the choice themselves because they wanted to do it. And this is a lot of times what happened even with spouses in their marriages. A lot of times we as husbands or as wives, we call ourselves under the guise of giving our spouse advice. I'm giving you nasiha. You should be doing this more. You should be doing that more. Instead of phrasing it in a way why you could say, honey, if you want me to love you more, you could do this. Is that all I have to do? Sometimes we say it in joking, your spouse might do something like you got sick and you had to go to the hospital and your husband shows up with flowers and you say, well, Dad, this is what I got to do to get you to bring me flowers. I got to get sick every time for you to bring me flowers. Shukran, jazakallah khair. Nice gesture, right? But you're showing the spouse that you want them to initiate the action. All right, if you want to change an action, even in a marriage, if you want to change your spouse's action, that doesn't change with ultimatums. If you do this again, you're divorced. If that happens again, this is going to happen. Those ultimatums, they don't change the action. They don't change the action. It just causes them to shift the behavior to doing something different. The same behavior, but just doing it in a different way. But you still have not solved the problem. You didn't change the behavior. Changing someone's behavior has to start within. So in order for you to get someone to change their behavior, there has to be motivation. Motivation. An ultimatum is not motivating. It's not motivating. That's not how you motivate somebody. If you do that again, I'm out. If you do this again, I'm leaving. If you do this again, you're divorced. If you do that, that's not motivating. That doesn't motivate anybody. Right. She might call you bluff. She might say, well, go then, bye. Yeah, absolutely. She gets tired of hearing you say it. You use your ultimatum, too much. it runs its course. It's no longer, she's tolerant now of the ultimatum, right? So it doesn't have the same effect. But if you want a person to change their behavior, you have to tap into that motivating mechanism. What is going to motivate them? I can guarantee you if we did this, we would start seeing different results in our marriage. Really? Okay, let's try it. It's motivating, opposed to you saying to the person, if you do this again, we're done. That doesn't motivate anybody, right? And believe it or not, ultimatums is the ultimate role reversal. Ultimatum is the ultimate role reversal. When you give someone an ultimatum, that means that I'm frustrated with you. I can't change you. Things are not, you're not fixing yourself the way I want you to. And so as a result of that, I'm leaving. That's what an ultimatum is. If you do that again, we're divorced. Basically, I'm frustrated with your behavior. I don't have the power to change you. So I'm just going to run away. That's what an ultimatum is. That's what you're doing. You're showing how much of a coward you really are, because instead of you trying to help the person change that behavior or actually stop doing the thing that is, invoking that behavior, right? You would threaten the person to leave them if that behavior continues. That is basically you're saying, I'm at my wit's end. I give up. There's nothing else I can do. I'm just going to run away. All right. So to walk with tranquility, the Prophet ﷺ said, can I not direct you to an action that if you do it, that Allah would remove from you your sins? يَمْحُ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَطَايَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would erase your sins, وَيَرْفَعْ بِهِ الدَّرَجَاتِ, and will raise you in degrees with Him, right? You'll be elevated higher with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even that is so important, like elevating yourself with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking a higher status or position with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We oftentimes seek higher status and positions with people. So we'll dry snitch on other people because we want to get in good with this person. We want to be this person's bestie. We want to be this person's best friend. And we want to X the other person out of the way. And we'll do really shysty, shady stuff so that we can earn a good place with this person. And we should be trying to earn a greater place with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Think about the shady stuff that people do so they can get closer to this person or that person instead of trying to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you don't have to do shady stuff to get closer to Allah. You can do honorable things and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't have to do shady stuff. Because any person that would accept you doing shady stuff to get closer to them is a devil. They're not your friend. And you're a fool for trying to get close to a person like that. There's no standards. There's nothing honorable about that. And he said, so can I not direct you to an action that if you do it, Allah will erase your sins and He will lift you higher in degrees with Him? They said, of course, O Messenger of Allah. Bala. The Prophet ﷺ said, Isbagul wudu ala makari. Making wudu at the times when you dislike it. Are there times in which we dislike making wudu? Is there, I'm just being honest, is there a time when making wudu becomes challenging or difficult? When it's cold. It's freezing outside right now. And then you go into a masjid and they only have cold water. There's no hot water in the masjid. Many masajid, you go in, there's no hot water. And it's difficult. You stick your hand under the water, you're waiting, and you're like, all right, we're going to give it a minute, let it warm up. And it never seems to warm up. It's cold. You got to make wudu. For the women, very difficult. They got to unravel, take off the hijab. They got to, sometimes, and, sisters wear, the overgarments where the sleeve is tight, so you can't roll your sleeve up. You got to take the entire overgarment off, right? Or you put your socks on and you didn't make wudu over your bare feet, so now you got to take your socks off. I mean, there's nothing worse than being at work. Already you're making wudu in the bathroom, right? And your colleagues are walking in and out and seeing all this water splashed all over the place, right? And then you got to explain to them what you're doing. Right? What are you doing, man? Like, you got your sleeves rolled up, like you taking a bath in here? What is going on here? And then on top of that, you realize that I did not make wudu over my bare feet this morning, or I did, and then I broke my wudu, and then I put my socks on. So now I got to take my socks off and stick my feet in the sink. La ilaha illallah. This is difficult. It's challenging, without a doubt. It's not easy. It's not an easy task at all. It is challenging. So the Prophet ﷺ said, "Isbaghul wudu ala makari," to make wudu when it is challenging, difficult. He said, "Wa kathratul khuta ila masajid," and taking a lot of footsteps to the masjid. All right. Sometimes we, live 10 minutes away from the masjid. Park your car and walk. Drive half of the way and walk the rest of the way. Get the hasanat. كثرة الخطى إلى المسجد إلى مساجد وانتظار الصلاة بعد الصلاة, and to wait for one salah until the next. You pray Maghrib, sit in the masjid after Maghrib all the way until Isha. To sit in between, the Prophet ﷺ said, فَذَلِكُمُ الرِّبَاطِ ذَلِكُمُ الرِّبَاطِ. This is a fortress for you. It's a protection for you. Number 5, from the things that help develop Kushoo is to enter into the masjid with your right foot and supplicate for Allah's mercy. It was from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that upon entering the masjid that he would supplicate, he would enter with his right foot and he would ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. On the authority of Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, أنه كان يقول من السنة إذا دخلت المسجد أن تبدأ برجلك اليمنى وإذا خرجت أن تبدأ برجلك اليسرى. That Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said it is from the sunnah. When a sahabi says it is from the sunnah, that means that they are narrating something that they saw done during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he approved of it. So now it becomes sunnah. All right? Not because the sahabi said it, but because the sahabi is saying something about a deed that was done during the time of the Prophet ﷺ that he witnessed, and the Prophet saw it and he approved of it, or he did it himself. He said that it is from the sunnah that when you enter the masjid that you begin with your right foot first, and that when you exit the masjid with your left foot. What relevance, what significance does this have with this whole subject that we're talking about? Why is it important to enter into the masjid with your right foot and exit with your left foot? Why is that important? What is the relevance of that? Other than following the Prophet ﷺ, what is the reference here? What is the relevance here? It's making you conscious, because you're not going to walk into the masjid with your right foot first, except that you are actually thinking about this. There's a consciousness there. Leaving with your left foot, that there's a consciousness there. This is not something that a person just normally does. This is, you wait right until you're good and well until you get to the door, and then you stick your right foot in first. There was a conscious thought that was put into that behavior. Right? So we're following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ using our brains, using our minds. And this is unlike some people who follow the sunnah, but they don't even use common sense along with following the sunnah. So they'll walk into a masjid with their shoes on, and they'll say, it's from the sunnah. But you're stepping on carpet that we have to pay for, that we have to clean, that you just came from outside, you just came out of the bathroom, and you walk onto the musalla floor with your shoes on. You are following the sunnah without using common sense, Habibi. How in the world do you say, I'm following the sunnah, and you're standing on the carpet that we paid for, and now we have to clean that area of the carpet because you just came out of the bathroom with your shoes on, you just came out from outside, walk into the masjid with your shoes on, and you call yourself following the sunnah? You have got to be kidding me. Genius. When the Prophet ﷺ prayed with his shoes on, the Prophet ﷺ prayed in sand. Because the floor of the masjid in the Prophet's masjid was sand, not carpet. Hence the fact the man walked into the masjid, urinated in the masjid. The Prophet said, let him finish. And then simply pour water over it. Why? Because by pouring water over it, you're just flipping the sand over and mixing it with a little water, and it purifies itself. If that was carpet, do you think the Prophet would have said, just pour water on it? No. They're making salat in sand, Habibi. Genius. And you walk into a musalla floor with carpet that Muslims spent. We fundraise in Masjid. I remember at Masjid Ahlus Sunnah in East Orange, New Jersey, we fundraise upwards of 100 grand to carpet that entire masjid. We fundraise, raising money to get money up for the carpet. I helped put the carpet down. I remember the morning after Fajr, we were all rolling the big rolls of carpet down to carpet the masjid. And you step on the carpet that we raised thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you step on it with your shoes. Talking about you're praying, you're following the sunnah. Following the sunnah, brothers and sisters, is also using wisdom and using our good common sense. Right? We marry a woman, and then immediately, soon as we marry her, we get her pregnant. Say, brother, why did you get the sister pregnant? You guys just got married 3 weeks ago. What's the sunnah to have a lot of children? It's the sunnah to take care of your kids. If you're not going to be around, then why would you have children with her? I mean, it doesn't register. With some, it just doesn't register. Because you get her pregnant in 3 weeks after marrying her, and then she's divorced before she even delivers. She's divorced before she delivers. Or she's divorced a year or 2 years after she has the baby. But it's from the sunnah to get married and have children. It was also from the sunnah to take care of your kids too. Don't forget to mention that. The Prophet ﷺ never abandoned any of his children. The Sahaba never abandoned any of their children. All of their children have their last names. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. So, when we follow the sunnah, we follow the sunnah also using common sense. So, to exit the masjid with your left foot, to enter with your right foot, that this is a conscious decision that we are making in following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And he mentioned in another hadith on the authority of Abi Usaid, he said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا دخل أحدكم المسجد فليقل اللهم افتح لي أبواب رحمتك وإذا خرج فليقل اللهم إني أسألك من فضلك. That when you enter into the masjid, you should say, Oh Allah, I ask you for your mercy. Allahumma iftah li. Allahumma iftah li abwab rahmatik. Oh Allah, open for me the doors of your mercy. You're asking, not the door of your mercy, abwab, this is the plural, the doors of your mercy, because the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala conveys His mercy to His servants is done in many ways. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can convey His mercy to His servants in many different ways, not just one way. Right? And usually the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is extended to His servants through the hearts of other servants. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that al-qulub aniyatullahi fil ard, that the hearts are the vessels of Allah in the earth. That Allah uses the hearts of His servants to convey His mercy, His anger to His servants. The hearts is the vehicles that Allah uses to convey His mercy. You walk into a masjid, someone walks up to you, says something nice to you, embraces you, engages you in a way that builds your iman, builds your faith, make you feel good. That wasn't haphazard. That person wasn't just in a good mood. Why did they choose you? Why did they come to you? That was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's way of conveying His mercy to you through somebody else. Some of the Sahaba said, O Messenger of Allah, what if someone praises you? Someone says something nice about you, praises you. The Prophet ﷺ said, that is the ajr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-ajr, that is the immediate reward of Allah. That's Allah's immediate reward. Allah wants to immediately reward you. He changes the heart of one of His servants and they come and they say something nice to you, say something, praiseworthy about you. That is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's immediate reward. But your reward in the hereafter is far greater. So don't tell me Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't use the hearts of His servants to convey His mercy to His servants. He uses us. So to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, iftah li abwab rahmatik, open for me the doors of your mercy. This is upon entering a masjid. As I said in the khutbah last week, even for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow you to enter into a masjid is a sign of His mercy. The fact that you walked through the masjid doors, prayed 2 rak'ah and sat down and waited for the salah is a sign that Allah wants good for you. It's a sign that Allah is having mercy upon you. Because how many Muslims ride past the same masjid, never stop to come in and pray? Why you? Why you, out of the hundreds of Muslims who might ride by this particular masjid, on this particular road, on this particular street, on a day-to-day basis, never stop, get out and go in and pray? But you do. That's your personal choice, but that personal choice has been guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without a doubt. So to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, iftah li abwab rahmatik, open for me the doors of your mercy. And he said, upon leaving, you should ask Allah, Allahumma inni as'aluka min fadlik. Oh Allah, I ask you for your bounty. Oh Allah, I ask you for your bounty. And one of the great scholars of Islam in our recent times, Sheikh Abdul Muhsin Al-Abad, in his commentary on this dua, he said that you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, su'al Allah ar-rahma inda dukhul al-masjid, that you are asking Allah for mercy upon entering the masjid, لأن الرحمة لأنه جاء إليه يرجو رحمة الله وثوابه وجزاؤه, that you came to the masjid seeking Allah's mercy. You came to the masjid for the purpose of seeking Allah's mercy and His reward and His bounty. Number 6, from the things that will help us develop Kushoo, is do not sit until you've prayed 2 rak'ah. Do not sit until you've prayed 2 rak'ah. This prepares you spiritually for the prayer. So we talked about the mental preparation. We talked about the physical preparation. We talked about the protection of Allah. Allah opening His mercy, the doors of His mercy. Now we're talking about the spiritual preparation. You got to prepare. So in our religion, before you enter into the prayer, there's what is known as a sunnah prayer, to prepare you for the prayer. The prayer before the prayer. Right? The prayer before the prayer. Because it is through the sunnah prayer that our hearts and our souls are now being prepared to engage in the salah. Opposed to you entering into a masjid, right, and the jama'ah has already started. They're already in the second rak'ah. You enter the masjid, you got to put your shoes on the rack, you got to hang your jacket up, and then you're scurrying, rushing to get to the rank to catch the imam before he comes up from ruku'. Your heart is pounding, racing. Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah, 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 subhanallah. Right? There's no khushur in that. There is no consciousness of Allah in that. You are rushing because you want to get this act of worship done and over with. No consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You haven't been prepped. You haven't been prepared. Versus a brother who comes in before the iqamah is called. He enters the masjid, he makes the dua, he goes off into a corner and he prays 2 rak'ah. He's now already begun to engage his spirituality. He's now engaging himself. So now when he finishes his 2 rak'ah and the iqamah is called, he just finished praying. And now he's about to go into prayer again for the second time. He's prepared. Spiritual preparation. Sunnah prayers. This is not haphazard. This does not have been put in place to make our lives more difficult. So the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا دَخَلَ أَحَدُكُمُ الْمَسْجِدِ فَلَا يَجْلِسْ حَتَّى يُصَلِّيَ رَكَعَتَيْنِ, that if any one of you enters into the masjid, he should not sit down until he prays 2 rak'ah. This is even during Jumu'ah, when the imam is given the khutbah, and you enter into the masjid, you should pray your 2 rak'ah and have a seat. Don't walk in the masjid and sit down because you want to, hear what the imam is saying. Because in many instances, Jumu'ah, much like any other prayer, has become a mechanical movement as well. I don't just go to Jumu'ah and do my, ritual. It's ritual practice. It's not, I'm going to Jumu'ah because I want to hear the imam say something profound. I want to listen closely to what the imam is saying. Perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to convey something to me using the words of the imam. And it happens all the time. People come up to you right after the khutbah. It's like, yo, were you in my house last night? Like you read in my soul? How did you know? And you don't even know this person from a can of spray paint. The person is saying to you, how did you know? Everything you spoke about on the minbar was my life. It's as if you were talking about me. You don't even know the person. You think that's haphazard? You think that's coincidental? It's not coincidental. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew what you needed, when you needed it, and He gave you exactly what you needed. How many times you walk into a masjid? Wallah al-azim, this has happened to me. Walking into a masjid where I'm one of the few times I'm not on the minbar, but walk into a masjid and you sit down and you're like, what in the world did I just walk into? It's as if this guy knows my entire, as if nobody else is in the room except me and him. Or him and I. I mean, subhanAllah, this is not coincidental. There's a verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Wallahu a'lamu haythu yaj'alu risalata. Allah knows best where to place His message. Allah knows what you need, when you need it, and how you need it. And He makes sure you get what you need. Trust me, this is not coincidental. Allah knows that you were struggling with this since yesterday or since last night, and He know you needed to hear this, and you just so happen to walk into a masjid and the imam is talking about it on the minbar. And you absorb in all of it. Never underestimate where your benefit is going to come from. We go to Jumu'ah and we say, this imam, I'm just going to, I listen, I show up. Some people show up right as the khutbah is ending. They don't even want to hear the khutbah. You don't know where your benefit is going to come from. Your knowledge, the knowledge for your soul is like food for your body. Why do we eat all of the food on our plate? Even to the point where the Prophet ﷺ said, if you had the ability to lick your fingers, you should lick your fingers. Why? Because you don't know where the barakah in your food is going to be at. It could be in that little morsel of food that you left on the plate, that you threw in the garbage. You threw your barakah away. Yeah. And we do it all the time. We're constantly throwing our barakah in the garbage. Constantly. We put food on the plate, and then we, neglect this little piece or that piece or this piece and that piece, and then we throw the plate in the garbage. And then we wonder why 20 minutes later we hungry again, because there was no barakah in your food. No barakah in your food. And our souls function the same way. Listen to the entire khutbah, because you don't know which part of what he is saying is going to be the barakah for you. And even if you can't necessarily identify to what the imam is saying, at least you were listening, looking for the barakah, looking for it. You go to khutbah, you go to Jumu'ah with the intention of listening to the khutbah, trying to figure out, where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to convey to me my barakah? Where is it going to come from? At the beginning of the khutbah, at the end of the khutbah, where is it going to come? Not only that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has angels that stand at the doors of the Masjid, and they record everyone that enters into the masjid. And once the imam gets on the minbar and says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, the angels, they close their record books and they sit and they listen to the khutbah. So mashallah, while you're too good to listen to the khutbah, the angels are listening. Mashallah. And you get there late and the angels don't even record you amongst the people who attended Jumu'ah. In jail, in prison, they have a log book of people who attend Jumu'ah. And they do this because a lot of times people play the I'm Muslim role. So when Ramadan comes around, they're like, yeah, I'm Muslim. Because they want to capitalize off of the food that the Muslims get in the prison. It's sick. It's a really sick mentality. Right? So what happens is the imam or the person the imam puts in charge, it's a really, unique, concept. The person that the imam puts in charge of the logbook, they log who comes into Jumu'ah every Friday. So if your name is not in that logbook all throughout the year, when Ramadan come up, guess what? You can say you Muslim all day long. We ain't feeding you nothing. You never showed up for Jumu'ah. How you Muslim? This is in prison. How are you Muslim? Your name is not on the logbook. You never came to Jumu'ah. And now all of a sudden Ramadan is coming around and we're giving out, the kitchen is open for the Muslims and, the Muslims are getting food and, things like that. And you want to capitalize off of that? Nah, sorry. You're not in the logbook. That's in this life. What about the logbook Yawm al-Qiyamah? Not to mention the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever misses 3 Jumu'ahs consecutively, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put a seal on their hearts. Allah will put a seal on their hearts. So, I mean, we have to think about the spirituality that is enmeshed in these texts. I'm going to mention one more, inshallah ta'ala, and then we'll stop, bi'idhnillah. So even if the imam is given the khutbah and you enter into the masjid, you should still pray your 2 rak'ah and sit down. The Prophet ﷺ was giving the khutbah one time, and he saw a man come in and sit down, and he stopped the khutbah, and he asked the man, did you pray? As-salat rak'atayn? Did you pray 2 rak'ah? The man said, no. The Prophet said, Qum fasalli wa tajawwaz fihima. He said, stand up and pray your 2 rak'ah and be quick about it. He stopped the khutbah to ask the man, did he pray his 2 rak'ah? Now, if we were to do that today, a person would be highly offended, but you just want good for the person. And you enter into the masjid, you greet the masjid with 2 rak'ah. You thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for even showering you with His mercy and giving you the ability to walk into a masjid and pray 2 rak'ah. So don't walk into the musalla and sit down and begin a conversation, jump on your cell phone. This is not, like a waiting room. The masjid is not a waiting room. You walk into the waiting room, you sign your name on a piece of paper. Excuse me. You sign your name on a piece of paper and you go sit down and you wait for them to call your name. The masjid is not a waiting room. We don't go in, sit down, jump on our phone, grab a magazine, and just sit and wait for the muadhin to call the adhan. This is not a waiting room. This is a musalla. This is a place of prayer, a place of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And number 7 is making dua in between the adhan and the iqamah. Very powerful. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "La yurad ad-du'a bayn al-adhan wal-iqamah." Collected in the Sunnah of Abu Dawood, the Prophet ﷺ said that the dua that is made between the adhan and the iqamah will never be rejected. Allah will always respond. You want a response from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then make your dua in between the adhan and the iqamah. And that is what I wanted to present. There are some other things that we can do to help us develop Kushoo in the Salah. I'll just breeze through them quickly without any explanation. So that was 7. Number 8 is tadhakkar al-maut fi salah, is that while you enter into your prayer, you should remember death while you're praying. Death is one of the quickest ways to bring you back to reality. Remembering or thinking about death. Just imagine that you're in the salah and the angel of death is just waiting for you to make the taslim so he can take your soul. And this is the salah, last prayer that you're going to pray. This is the last salah that you are going to pray. Because it could happen to you like that. This is the last prayer that you're going to pray. And even the Prophet ﷺ used to say to his companions, Sallu salat al-muwaddi', and pray as if this is your last prayer. Why did he say that to them? Pray as if this is your last prayer, because he wanted them to be mentally engaged in their prayer. He said, pray as if this is your last prayer. And then he says, Allahu Akbar, and go into the prayer. How do you sit with that? For the next 10 minutes that you're in your prayer and the Prophet ﷺ says to you, pray as if this is your last prayer. How do you sit with something like that? You're engaged. That was his way of giving a final piece of reminder before they begin the prayer. Pray as if this is your last prayer. And so remembering death while you're in your salah, it is the quickest way to bring you back to reality. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Udhkur al-maut fi salatik, fa inna al-rajul idha dhakara al-maut fi salatihi la hariyun an yuhsin salatahu. Wa salla salat al-rajul la yadhunnu annahu yusalli ghayraha." The Prophet ﷺ said, remember death in your prayer, for indeed a man who remembers death in his prayer is more likely to perfect his prayer. He said, and pray the prayer of a man who doesn't think or doesn't believe that he will pray another one. Pray the prayer of a man, and I mean volumes could be written about that alone. Pray the prayer of a man who believes that he will not pray another one. Number 9, tadabbur al-ayat al-maqru'ah, is to contemplate on the ayats that are being recited. And so that means that those of us who are memorizing surahs from the Quran and don't really know Arabic, and when you memorize a surah in Arabic, go back and memorize it in English. We have a dual responsibility for those of us who don't know Arabic. You don't get off easy just saying, oh, I don't know Arabic. Okay, you've been Muslim for 10 years, 15 years. Well, I mean, like, how are you going to solve that problem? Ramadan after Ramadan after Ramadan go by, you listen to the whole Quran recited year after year after year, and you still don't understand one ayat being recited to you. And you're okay with that. This is unacceptable. At least, you know, Ramadan is coming up. You know that the first set of ayats, the Imam usually tells you what ayats he's reciting. Then you go back and you read the English. You familiarize yourself with the English. So when nighttime comes and we're praying Salat al-Tarawih, when the Imam says, after he finishes and he begins, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. When he begins to recite the first ayahs from Surah Al-Baqarah, you are already familiar with them in English because you went ahead and you memorized and familiarized yourself with the English. So even though you don't know Arabic, you can follow along in each and every ayah in English with what the person is saying. But to sit and say, well, I don't know Arabic, and just leave it as that, it's unacceptable. Unacceptable. You're doing yourself a tremendous injustice. Because one of the ways to keep you focused while you're in the prayer is by understanding what is being recited to you. Contemplating and reflecting. And for those of us who know Arabic and are familiar with the Quran, especially when certain surahs are being recited, then you should contemplate on those ayats. Contemplate. When the Imam begins a surah, like, the surah that we, recited, during the, after the Jumu'ah prayer, recited from Surah An-Nur, Surah number 25. When you hear the Imam says, he begins, Allahu nuru as-samawati wal-ard, mathalu nurihi kamishkatin fiha misbah. That Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. And the example of His light is like a fire inside of a niche. And that niche is, and begin to talk about this metaphor about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's light affects everything. You are familiar with those ayats. And you begin to contemplate and reflecting on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying about Himself that He is the light of the heavens and the earth. The Imam begins to recite ayats. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullah. وَلْتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. That, O you who believe, fear Allah. And let every soul look at what it has sent forth for tomorrow. And fear Allah. And know that Allah is aware of everything that you do. And do not be like those people who forgot about Allah. And Allah caused them to forget about themselves. To the end of those ayats. When you hear those ayats being recited, it adds another layer of consciousness for you. Not only are you just spiritually engaged in your prayer, but now Quran is being recited to you and you understand what is being recited. These are the same words that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uttered to Jibreel. And Jibreel uttered them to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who in turn recited them to the rest of our ummah. We're talking about the Quran being recited even to the Prophet ﷺ, and when he heard the ayats being recited back to him, it impacted him. He told one of his companions, Iqra alayya al-Quran, read the Quran to me. And the companion turned to him and said, Aqra alayka al-Quran wa alayka unzil? Am I going to read the Quran to you and you are the one the Quran was revealed to? You know the Quran better than I do. The Prophet ﷺ said, Inni uhibbu an asma'ahu min ghayri. I like to hear the Quran being recited by other than me. I just love hearing it. When you're reciting the Quran, it's different. But when you hear somebody else reciting, it's totally different. You contemplating on what you're saying, but you're also struggling between contemplating on what you're saying in addition to not making any mistakes in what you're reciting. So, you can't really completely focus. But when you hear it being recited by someone else, you can relax now and just concentrate solely on what's being said. So he got to an ayat in Surah An-Nisa where he said, and how will it be when we bring forth for every nation a messenger? And we bring you, O Muhammad, as a witness over all nations. And the Prophet ﷺ told him, Hasbuk, stop, enough. He said, and when I turned around and I looked, the Prophet ﷺ, his whole face was wet with tears. Because he understood. It was as if Allah was talking directly to him. He said, how will it be when we bring forth for every nation a witness, and we bring you, O Muhammad, as a witness over all nations? فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَا لِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ بِشَهِيدٍ وَجِئْنَاكَ عَلَى هَؤُلَاءِ شَهِيدًا. And how will it be when we bring forth for every nation a witness, and we bring you, O Muhammad, as a witness for everybody? The Prophet ﷺ, when he came to this ayah, he began to weep, cry. Because he understood what was being said. So contemplating and reflecting on the ayahs. Number 10, another ila mawdi' as-sujud is looking at the place where your head is going to prostrate on the ground. Concentrating on the exact space where your head is going to touch the ground helps to keep you focused in your prayer. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she said, Anna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, إِذَا صَلَّى طَأْطَأَ رَأْسَهُ وَرَمَى بِبَصَرِهِ نَحْوَ الْأَرْضِ وَأَمَّا إِذَا جَلَسَ لِلتَّشَهُّدِ فَإِنَّهُ يَنْظُرُ إِلَى إِصْبَعِهِ الْمُشِيرَةِ. That Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that when he started to pray, طَأْطَأَ رَأْسَهُ, he would lower his head, low like this. He would lower his head, and he would place his eyes on the place where his head was going to touch the ground. You're standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people, Allahu Akbar, and they standing up, they looking around like this. You stand lowering your head, realizing that you're standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a humble servant of Allah. Lowering your eyes to the place where your head is going to touch the ground. She said, but when he made the tashahhud, Allahumma at-tahiyyatu lillahi was-salawatu wat-tayyibat, when he made the tashahhud, then he would fixate his eyes on his finger that he was pointing with. All right? Number 11, al-ijtihad bid-du'a fi mawadi'ihi fi as-salat, khususan fi as-sujud. كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أقرب ما يكون العبد من ربه وهو ساجد فأكثروا الدعاء وأنتم في السجود. Is to be diligent in making dua at the times in your prayer where you can make dua. There are a number of places in your salah where you can make dua. Where are those places? Anyone know? In sujud. Where else can you make dua? In ruku'? After you bow, okay. After you say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, okay, in ruku'. And after you finish the second tashahhud. At-tahiyyatu lillahi wa salawatu wa tayyibat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. After you finish, Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim fil alameen innaka hamidun majid. Once you finish that, you don't have to make the taslim. That is a place where you can make dua. And one of the supplications the Prophet ﷺ used to make in that space was to seek refuge from 4 things. And one of them being Masjid ad-Dajjal. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhab al-nari wa adhab jahannam wa min fitnat al-mahya wa mamati wa a'udhu bika min fitnat al-Masih ad-Dajjal. Another place, another dua is to ask Allah to help you become more perfect in your worship. Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. This is a place where you can make dua. You don't have to make the taslim. You don't have to say Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim fil alameen innaka hamidun majid. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum. No, you don't have to make the taslim. You can actually continue making dua until you're done, and then make the taslim. That is a space in your prayer that is designated for dua. So there are times in your salah where you can make dua. And we should be diligent in taking advantage of those times and those places in our prayer where we can make dua, especially in sujud. Prolonging your sujud is one of the ways to help you regain consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your salah. And many times, we hurry up with the sujud, which I can't figure for the life of me why this is the closest place that you can get to God. And instead of taking advantage of that, we peck like a bird just so we can hurry up and get done with the salah. The Prophet ﷺ said, أَقْرَبُ مَا يَكُونُ الْعَبْدُ مِنْ رَبِّهِ وَهُوَ سَاجِدٌ. The closest place that the servant can be to Allah, to God, is when he is in sujud. This is the closest place. The distance between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the distance between your forehead and the ground. The closest place that you are to Allah is when you are in sujood. So make an abundance of dua while you are in sujood. فَأَكْثِرُوا الدُّعَى. Alright, and I'll give you one more. We'll cover one more, and this will be 11. الأذكار الواردة بعد الصلاة وهو مما يعين ويثبت أثر الخشوع في القلب وما حصل من بركة الصلاة. Number 11 from the ways to develop khushu' in the salah is to make dhikr after the salah. This is something that many people take for granted. Making your dhikr after the salah. Alright? And it is one of the greatest ways to aid you and assist you in having khushu', consciousness of Allah in your heart. And to help with the barakah of your prayer, the blessing that was in your prayer, to allow it to manifest. If there was any blessing in your prayer, then it should be seen on you after the prayer is over. You agree? If there was barakah, if there was blessing in your prayer, then that blessing should be seen on you even after the prayer is finished. So if a person, for example, was engaging in a haram act, I mean, I don't want to mention anything specific because I don't want to offend anyone. But, engaging in any act that's haram before you pray. Let's say you're texting your girlfriend or you're texting your boyfriend. And then you go pray. There's no way that after you make the taslim, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, after following these 11 steps that I gave, that you would be able to pick up the phone and continue texting this boyfriend or this girlfriend. There's no way that you will be able to continue doing that. Because the salah would have an impact on you that you would actually now be more conscious of the actions that you're doing. You can't do it. Some people are conscious enough that when they're about to pray, right? I'm a convert to Islam. So there are things that took place amongst Muslims, even before I converted to Islam, behaviors that were passed down. But from what was told to me by some brothers who, have been Muslim for a while, they said, that when we wanted to go to a club or go do something haram, we would wait until after Isha. It's like, we got to wait till after we get the last prayer in, and then we can go do us. But nobody's going to go to the club after Maghrib, and then Isha is upon you, right? It's like, how do you do that? But you're going to pray Maghrib, Isha, we got all our 5 out of the way, let's go party. Yeah, some brothers told me that, back in the day, that before they were about to go and engage in something that was haram, they had to get all of the 5 salat out the way, right? Because you can't stand in front of Allah. I mean, between Isha and Fajr, it's a lifetime. You can make Tawbah 1,000,000 times before then, and so by the time Fajr comes in, you good. You can stand in front of Allah, and feel a little remorse, but for the most part, you've made your Tawbah, you've repented, and it's pretty much done. But you can't. Go to Masjid, and then do all your dirt. Right. So you can go and do your worship, alhamdulillah, with a sound mind. At least they thought. But it shows that there was a consciousness there. And today, our children, many of the Muslims today, don't even function, not even with that level of consciousness. Subhanallah. It's like Maghrib, Isha. What I need to worry about Isha? Light that blunt up. What I need to worry about Isha for? I'll pray once my high goes down. It's not that consciousness is not even there, and that's sad because that was sick. That's a sick mentality to say, let me get Isha out the way first, and then we can go to the club. That's sick, but at least that shows that there was a foundation there. That at least shows that there was some foundation there. But today's Muslims don't even have that. There is no salat. There is no worry about praying 5, making sure my 5 were done, right? There was none of that. I mean, the difference between a fasting and the difference between a fasting and that's a bit harsh. But
obviously, a fasting you're committing the same sin over and over.
Right.
You do the 5.
Right.
But
not praying at all. Absolutely. There's a difference between a person who, sins, engages in certain behaviors, but they at least get the bare minimum done of the 5 prayers. They at least make sure they have those things done, even though they are engaging in certain behaviors, versus a person who doesn't even care about Salat. The Salat is the least of their worries. And on top of not praying, you're still engaging in acts that are haram. Yeah, this is sad, man. This is sad. But, the reminder benefits the believer, inshallah ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Remind, for indeed the reminder benefits the believer. So I hope that there was some benefit in this, inshallah ta'ala. I will concentrate more on the Salah. I think that, from time to time we have to go back and we have to revisit some of the basics, of Islam. Sometimes we get caught up in what social injustices and everything that's going on around the world. And we should be, keenly aware of what's going on around us, but at the same token, not to the extent of ignoring, basic pillars of the religion, basic aspects of our worship. I mean, we engage in Salat, 5 times a day at bare minimum. We recite Al-Fatiha 17 times a day, bare minimum. We should have a deeper connection to the Salat. And for those brothers and sisters who are looking to get married, when you look at the person that you're interested in, you can tell when a person has a connection to their prayer and a person doesn't. Their behavior, the way they carry themselves. A person who prays 5 times a day on a daily basis and actually has a connection to their prayer, there's a certain demeanor, a certain way that they carry themselves, a certain decorum that they lead with, that you can sense that when you sit in their presence. Versus a person who prays every now and again, sometimes, or he goes through the motions, or she goes through the motions of the prayer. You can sense that. And when you're in tune with your spirituality, you pick up on those things very quickly. When you're not in tune with your spirituality, any Muslim can sit in front of you, say salam alaikum, spark up a conversation about Islam, and we just engage them. But when you're in tune with your spirituality, you are consciously aware of the energies that are around you. And if someone is going to come into your life and be your spouse, then they have to function on a higher frequency of spirituality. They have to at least meet you where you are, right? And I think this is a mistake that a lot of brothers and sisters make when it comes to selecting a spouse. We don't ask about matters of spirituality. Do you pray 5 times a day? So tell me about your prayer and about your connection to Salah. And just listen to the person talk. Sometimes a person, you can tell that they don't pray on a regular basis just by how they move in the Salat. You can see they don't go into ruku' properly. They don't sit in jalsa properly. And you can see that it's not a medical issue for the person. The person's just not accustomed to going into these positions. Even a person who is challenged medically, they still know how to perform those positions with perfection. But a person who doesn't pray on a regular basis, you can tell by their demeanor, by how they carry themselves, the energy that they carry with them. You can tell that the person is not connected to their prayer. And if someone is going to come into your life, whether a friend, spouse, I don't care who it is, anybody that is coming into your life needs to function on a higher frequency of spirituality. Otherwise, you might be inviting devils into your life and you don't even realize it. Your Salat should be a protection for you from other people, because you have a connection to this institution that we call prayer. All right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. We don't really have time for questions, inshallah. We're going to pray Salat to Isha. And
something I think you should add for your audience is after the Salah, the Prophet Muhammad, he said that there is something very small that you can do after the Salah, but many people will leave it. And that's the tasbih, saying just that you can gain Jannah from just that.
Exactly, the tasbih, making your dhikr after the salah, sitting, it takes how long? 5 minutes to say subhanallah 33 times, alhamdulillah 33 times, Allahu Akbar 33 times. The time that it would take for us to scroll through a person's entire Facebook page. Somebody like your Facebook page, and then you click on their page to find out who they are, and you're scrolling through their pictures, and a whole hour done gone by. Wallahi, I kid you not. Wallahi al-azim. A person likes your Facebook page, you don't know who the person is, so you click on their page to find out more about them, because in these days and times, people put all the information on Facebook. Everything you need to know about, even the police, wallah al-azim, I kid you not, even the police are able to do investigations on people, gang members, other people, just by checking on their Facebook pages. Because you tell them all your business. They don't need to do investigation no more. All they got to do is click on your Facebook page, on your Twitter page, your Snapchat page, and all those pages will tell you everything you need to know. You sell drugs, you shot this person, you did this on this day, and because we go on the store, and we brag about it because we're constantly hustling for validation. Constantly hustling for validation. So we put everything on Facebook, everything on Twitter, everything you need to know about the person. Nothing is hidden to the eye anymore. There's no mystery to anybody. All of it is on the internet. Allahumma musta'an, man. This is a sick generation, man. Sick. We're looking for validation from complete strangers. Because this person liked and shared something that you said or did. You don't know this person. Why does this person liking something you did or sharing something you did, why does that validate you? Why does that make you feel better about yourself? This person is a complete stranger. How does someone who you don't know and they don't know you validate you? Sad, man. That's sad. And it's indicative of a lack of low self-esteem, man. A lack of self-esteem. But to his point, making dhikr after the salat, saying subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. These times, it takes a total of 5-6 minutes, to sit and to pace yourself, not to make the taslim and just get up and run out. Even if it's something that you have to do, 5 minutes is not going to kill you. 5 minutes is not going to kill you or kill the person that's waiting for you. And when you put the remembrance of Allah before everything else, then you make people submit to you. Not that I'm hurrying up, rushing to get to you. No, I have to pray. I'll end with this. I used to work at a barbershop, right, in Newark, New Jersey. And, as a barber, your business is basically completely on the trust of Allah. When you walk into a barbershop early in the morning, you don't really know. Most of our money is made off of walk-ins, right? And so you don't know how much you're going to make that day. You don't know how many people are going to walk in. And so when and it's a lucrative barbershop, you have a bunch of barbers and they're all hustling. They vibe, they're vying for the money. So when someone walks in, I got you. All right. And if you ain't quick on the draw, then, you're not going to do your numbers. So, we had a spot in the basement. So I used to, when it was time for Dhuhr, I would go downstairs and pray. I was the only praying Muslim that was working in the barbershop. So I would go downstairs and pray, but I used to make my prayers so long. As a new convert, you want to do everything perfect, right? You make it. You make it tarawih, right? It's Salatul Dhuhr. Come on now. You make it tarawih, Salatul Dhuhr. As a new convert, you want everything to be perfect. You want to do everything by the book, exactly the way that you're supposed to do it, right? And so I used to make my Salatul Dhuhr. I would go downstairs to pray and literally be gone for like 25 minutes. I come back upstairs and this one barber used to work next to me. He's a Muslim too now, alhamdulillah. But he used to work with me at the time. He wasn't a Muslim. And he used to be like, yeah, man, I just cut about 4 heads while you was downstairs. And I used to be like, dang, man. It's like $15 a head, man. You just made almost $100 while I was downstairs praying. So, and what I used to do is I got caught in a moment where I start to feel like I'm losing money. So I would run downstairs, rush through my prayer. I wouldn't even make my dhikr, and then I would run back upstairs just to, so I didn't miss, too much. And then I came to the realization that this was, messing with me, and it was infringing on my belief that Allah is really in control of my provision. So I really had to kind of reel it back a little bit. And I started to, take my time with my prayer. And it really didn't matter to me how much I missed. And then I realized at that point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really was in control, because when I come upstairs, he would say, yeah, I just cut 3 or 4 heads. And then I'll get one guy come in and I'll cut one guy's head and then he'll give me like a $20 tip. And I just made exactly what he made. He cut 4 heads and I just got paid for cutting 1 head what he made in 4. and I still made my prayer, and I still made my dhikr, and I still did. And wallah al-azim, it was one of the greatest tests of my reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you work a job, and construction, if you're an entrepreneur, you're working for yourself, anybody knows this. If you're working for yourself, you know that your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ability to provide for you is going to be tested. Especially in the wintertime now, if you work construction, because this is where business starts to slow down. Right? Especially if you're not a part of the union. And union guys, they take care of each other. But if you're not part of the union, you're independent contractor, entrepreneur, work for yourself, business can get real tough for you in times like this. And this is where your trust and your reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kicks in. So, never give up your remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for some share of the dunya. We say, Allah says in the Quran, وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ, that the remembrance of Allah is the greatest. It is greater than anything. Don't ever sell the religion, the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for anything. Not for a video game. I'm going to hurry up and not make my dhikr so I can hurry up and get back and finish playing my video game. Not for the video. Video game can wait. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot. You follow me?
There's better video games than that.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah, wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira wa akhiru da'wana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For those of you who are familiar with the Friday night freestyle, which will be happening in about an hour at 9 o'clock inshallah ta'ala, if you go to my Facebook page, the call-in number there is there, the pin number is there, and inshallah ta'ala we'll be speaking about just some incidents that have recently occurred in the ummah, and just chatting as we do some Friday nights on the Friday night freestyle. Go to my Facebook page and get the number, the call-in number, and the pin number, and inshallah I'll see you guys in an hour. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.